and welcome back to the channel. This video we're going to talk about my decision process of buying this Corvette C8. What other alternatives did I consider and how do they stack up against the Corvette C8? Starting off, let's talk about the C8 Stingray. This is a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8 producing 495 brake horsepower, and it does 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, which is unbeatable for any rival in this class. When they announced the Corvette Stingray back in 2020, I absolutely wanted this car right away. With this mid-engine layout, the car's sleek look, aerodynamic properties, and the handling characteristics, this car is the perfect spot for performance and looks as well. I've always been a huge JDM fan. For me, the GTR, the Evos, the Supras, the S2000 are the kind of cars that have always talked to me. But when they announced this mid-engine Corvette, I absolutely wanted one. Otherwise, buying a Corvette was never on my list, but this car changed my perspective. And now let's head back to the garage and talk about some other alternatives that I considered, and maybe you should too, based on your preferences. Now we're here back in the garage. You might notice it's a different day, different clothes. I do work full-time and life just gets in the way and it takes a lot of effort. So I would appreciate it if you guys can like, share, and subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out to continue to make content like this. So first off, I'm gonna be comparing brand new cars. Used market is a whole different ball game. So if you want that video, let me know in the comments and I'll tell you about the options that I considered comparing this car to what I could have bought used. So now, coming to the first option that I considered while buying this car was a Porsche Cayman GTS, and that has a 4-liter flat six producing 394 brake horsepower and doing 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds. Speed wasn't the biggest reason to go with this car. It's just that the Cayman, for me, even though the brand name, the quality, the fit and finish, everything's spot on. It's great. I love Porsche's fit and finish, but for me, that car I feel is small. Not saying that I don't fit in that car. It's just that it doesn't give me that wow factor just because it's such a small car. You see those on the road and it still doesn't feel special as compared to a Corvette C8 with this mid-engine layout. I think just for the looks, I went with the C8. Now, the GTS does cost more as well, and every little thing becomes an option. You want the nicer seats, you want the nicer steering, everything adds up. That's where considering the C8 won over the Cayman GTS. So the next option on the list was a very close competitor, which was a GT350 Mustang, and I absolutely do love that car. It has a 5.2 liter V8 naturally aspirated flat plane crank engine, so it sounds amazing. And the GT350 is a very track focused car that Ford is offering. It was neck and neck whether I want to go with the GT350 or this, and GT350 being slightly lesser in price from the C8 as well. And the Mustang also produces 525 brake horsepower compared to the 495 that this does. What led me away from the Mustang GT350 was the interior. I think it's very dated, it doesn't look stylish enough, and it wasn't my style, so I wanted something that looks modern and is very stylish. So that's where the C8 won for me. It was mostly the interior, and also the Voodoo engine sounds amazing, but a high revving engine usually has oil consumption problems, and I've heard horror stories of the engine breaking down in the first 10,000 miles. So that's what steered me away from the GT350, even though it was a very close competitor when choosing the C8. The next brand new car that I considered was an M4 competition, and I know I might get some hate about it, that the M4 is leagues apart, it's so much better, it's so much refined, it's so much luxurious. I agree with all those factors, but for me, having a naturally aspirated engine was a big deal. I didn't want to deal with turbos. I've had turbo cars before, and more moving parts mean more reliability issues. So I wanted to stick with something naturally aspirated. So the GTS, the GT350, and the C8 being naturally aspirated were my first choice, but I did consider the M4 Competition. It is not faster in 0 to 60, but I think it's faster in the quarter mile. It's faster on a track. It is very refined, very luxurious, and then everything is an option, just like the Porsche as well. If you want to get the nicer seats, it's an option. And for me, what steered me away, as I said, reliability. And the other thing is, it just looks like another BMW on the road. Yeah, sure, if someone knows their cars, they know it, but for the most part, it just didn't feel special. And the Corvette in orange, you could tell, just felt so much more special. That's why I opted for the C8 over the M4. I've had German cars before out of warranty, and yeah, you know where I'm going with that. The reliability and maintenance costs on German cars is something that I didn't want to deal with. In the end, it all depends on what your priorities are, what your preference is. Maybe you want a GT350 for the track. Maybe you like the looks of it. Maybe you want a front engine car. Maybe you do like the Porsche brand name. So what applies to me doesn't apply to everyone else. I just wanted to put it out there what my considerations were, and stay tuned for what used cars I considered when buying this car. There were some really nice cars that were on the list, but eventually I decided to go with the C8. Stay tuned for that. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. One thing you might notice about the motorcycle back there, it's still taped up, still no license plate. I've been to the track, and now I just don't want to ride on the streets anymore. So I am thinking about selling this and buying a track-only motorcycle, which either doesn't have a title or has a salvage title and is prepared for the track. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel if that's the kind of content you want to see, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.